and welcome to Good Nightmare, a podcast where we would all be gold medalists if napping was an Olympic sport. Please note that this episode does include mentions of suicide and child death. Please take this into consideration before listening. If this episode is not for you, don't feel obligated to listen. Health always comes first. The Whaley House is yet another landmark that has been dubbed the most haunted house in America. It has an extensive history and many haunting tales. The Whaley House is located in San Diego, California, over land that was previously a cemetery. It was not only a house, but also a general store, county courthouse, and it housed the first commercial theatre in San Diego in its time. It was home to the Whaley family, which is how it got its name. The Whaley House was considered to be one of the most decadent homes of Southern California. Furnished with mahogany and rosewood furniture, it was considered a mansion. Thomas Whaley, patriarch of the family, was born October 5, 1823. He was one of 10 children. He would go on to take over his father's business, which led to his move to California during the gold rush. At 26 years old, he would meet his wife, Eloise Delaunay, the two being married in New York on August 8, 1853. Together, they returned to San Diego to start their family. The couple had 6 children in all, though when their home suffered fire damage and their 18-month-old child died of scarlet fever, the pair and their brood moved away to San Francisco. It wasn't until 1868 that the family would return wholly to the Whaley House, once Thomas had attended the site to repair the home. The family continued to grow when daughters Violet and Anna married their beaux. However, one of these marriages was unknowingly, by Violet, doomed. Only 2 weeks into her marriage, Violet awoke one morning to find that her husband was missing. It was later discovered that he was in fact a con man who had married her solely to attain her dowry before taking it and running. Society at this time was unforgiving of single, divorced, or abandoned women, and so Violet found herself shunned by polite society. She never recovered from the humiliation of being abandoned or shunned by her peers, and suffered depression that would end in tragedy. On August 18, 1885, Violet completed suicide by shooting. She was only 22, and left behind a note that read, "Mad from life's history, swift to death's mystery, glad to be hurled, anywhere, out of this world." The suicide note was a passage from Bridge of Sighs by Thomas Hood. Corinne Whaley had been engaged at the time of her sister's suicide, but due to the scandal caused by the death, her fiancé broke off the engagement. Thomas Whaley went on to build a new home for the family in downtown San Diego, where they would instead live, leaving the Whaley House, which had already seen so much tragedy, vacant. Thomas Whaley himself passed in 1990, and his daughter Anne later passed in 1905. Son Francis Whaley married Susan Murray in 1888 and would go on to take over the old Whaley House in 1909, restoring the home to its former stature. He did not restore the home to only live in, however. He opened it as a tourist attraction, using its long-standing history to draw customers. By the year 1953, the whole of the Whaley family had passed. In 1960, the home was opened as a museum and remains as such to this day. A live-in caretaker currently resides on the property to prevent vandalism on the site. As we know with hauntings, places of great distress or tragedy often remain home to the spirits that resided there during their life. Visitors to the Whaley House report having seen the Whaley family members on the site. In fact, the Whaley family themselves had claimed to have experienced haunting during their lifetime. After moving into the home, they reported hearing ghostly footsteps around the house of a spirit named James Yankee Jim Robinson. Robinson was a man who had been hanged on the property for theft. According to whaleyhouse.org, the local newspaper reported that he kept his feet in the wagon as long as possible, but was finally pulled off. He swung back and forth like a pendulum until he strangled to death. Thomas Whaley himself had been witness to the hanging, but it obviously did not prevent him purchasing the property. Children who visit the museum are often seen talking to or waving to a man that no one else is able to see. It's believed that they are likely looking at and waving to Thomas Whaley himself, whose spirit is attached to the property. Men in long coats and women in full skirts have appeared to children and adults alike, and it's believed that they are the Whaley children. Even the Whaley's dog, Dolly, has been seen roaming the property. It seems that with a house built over a cemetery and that experienced such tragedy, it remains active spiritually to this day. If you want to experience this for yourself, the museum offers ghost tours, which people come from all over the world to witness for themselves. I know if I ever had the chance, I'd love to go. If you've been to the Whaley House or a similar haunted house, I'd love to hear your story, whether you'd like to just chat to me or write in to have your experience featured in a follow-up episode of Good Nightmare. You can contact me via email at goodnightmare_s@outlook.com or via Instagram or Twitter at goodnightmare_s. As always, thank you so much for listening, and please stay tuned to hear from one of my favourite podcasts. Until next time, sweet dreams.
Hello, I'm the narrator, the creator of Mythical, a podcast that wanders into the dark and fantastical pages of fairy tales and myths. Each episode, I read a classic or obscure story and add my own thoughts on the narrative. If you love original fairy tales, visit the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Mythical Podcast for all the latest updates and links to listen for free. I hope to see you in the storybooks.